10. Oh, it says we're live.
Wow,
So
that was unexpected, and we are live.
we are live, and everyone else is going to see it in 9, 10. Oh, now we started. I guess we're live. Hey, hi, everybody. Awkward transitions. Gotta love them. I'm Cheryl. This is Mike. Is that how it looks? Yeah, there we go. And we are going to talk about all things pitching to Spotify, which is kind of exciting. It's perfect timing for me as a musician because I'm coming out with my first record in like 4 years, and I didn't do this whole pre-save pitching spot. Like Spotify was not a thing that I was really like into 4 years ago. I don't know if it was anyone. So I'm super psyched to talk to Mike. Mike is the author of Work Hard, Playlist Hard. Love a good play on words. And we're going to talk about his book and my pitching course. And we're going to give you some crazy good discount deals because you're getting all the emails today, right? About all the we're doing Black Friday early this year. I'm like, what is happening? But so we're going to do that too. It's going to be great. But this is going to be a really awesome, I think it's going to be a great conversation. So yeah, Mike, I'm in New York, singer, songwriter, composer. And that's kind of all you need to know about me. Mike, I'm going to toss the ball to you. Introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Mike, living in San Diego, California. The accent is not from San Diego. It's originally from Australia, moved over to the US 4 years ago. Early stages DJ, got into music production, went independent, realized that no one was really paying attention to playlists, spent a lot of time researching playlists, made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons, and that ended up becoming a book. And that's kind of what brought us together, and one of the reasons we're here today to have this conversation.
Awesome. Very cool. I'm a little jealous that you are in San Diego, one of my favorite places. But yeah. So here's how we're gonna structure this hour. First of all, we are seeing your comments. So if you have questions or comments, feel free to type them in. We'll try to get to them. I'll be monitoring them, and we'll put some links and stuff down in there. But Mike's going to first talk about just the different types of playlists and sort of Spotify in general to sort of get us all on the same page. And then I'm going to talk about my own pitching strategies, not just for Spotify, but for other things. And then we're going to sort of tie it all together. We're going to take live questions and answers. We're going to tell you about the two awesome things we're going to give you. And then we'll send you on your merry way. So yeah, Mike, let's kick it off with tell us about playlists.
Sure. So let's start with the basics, and then we'll sort of try not to get too far ahead too quickly. But with playlists, there's different types of playlists out there. So for anyone that doesn't know, a playlist is exactly what it sounds like. It's a list of songs that have been put together in a specific order by somebody, whether it's all songs that make you feel good, songs to sing in the car, songs that you sing in the shower, songs that inspired you as an artist. Whatever the reason, somebody has put that together, curated, if you will. Now, with these playlists, there's different types. So if we were talking about Spotify in particular, there's editorial. These are the playlists that are curated by people that work at Spotify. So they go to Spotify, they clock in. Their job is to listen to music, put it in these playlists that are owned by Spotify, and place those songs where they fit. And that's their job. It's a pretty neat job. But you can imagine how many songs that they get to listen to every day. The next part of this, there's personalized editorial, which is, once again, curated in-house by Spotify. But these playlists are different for each listener. So if we were to both go to a playlist on Spotify called Weekend Hangouts, the songs that are in your version of that playlist would be different to the songs that are in my version of the playlist based on our listening habits. Some people seem to feel that the only personalized editorial playlists are the ones like Release Radar, which obviously are based on who you follow and artists that are similar that you may like and enjoy as well. But it has expanded from that this year. So personalized editorial is the second one. Next up, we have user-generated playlists. So anyone that has a Spotify account that listens to music can create their own playlists. You can drag songs directly in there. You can do it on your phone, on your computer. Once you've created a playlist of music, there's the option to make it public. Now, some people have done this, and then what happens is they start to share that link. People start to find it by searching for keywords for that playlist. And then that playlist starts to gain a number of followers and hopefully a number of people that are going back to that playlist and listening again and again. So they are user playlists, which we're probably going to focus on a lot more in this conversation than editorial. So I won't go too deep on those now, but anyone with a Spotify account that listens to music is a user, and anyone in Spotify can create a playlist and can make it public. Other types of playlists that are out there are brand playlists. So, for example, Nike, and then obviously major record labels also have their own playlist brands as well. So Warner Music have Topsify playlists, Sony Music have Filter playlists, Filtr, and Universal Music have Digster playlists. So the major labels also have their own playlist brands that they've set up and they've maintained as well, because they see the value in having their own playlists and having well-curated playlists where some of their releases will also fit. They're the main types of playlists that I wanted to mention. There's arguments that there's multiple types of playlists out there outside of the key ones that I've just mentioned here. But that's what I really wanted to drill down on first and sort of just explain the differences between those. From here, where would you like to go from here, Cheryl?
I find that really interesting. And just to clarify, the curators that curate playlists, or the playlisters that we're going to be talking about pitching to, the ones that you can find in like the Indie Spotify Bible or all these resources where you get lists of playlists, they're just Spotify users essentially that have created playlists that may or may not have become fairly popular and gotten followers, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. It's usually if it's a person's name, it's safe to assume that they're not a brand. Unless it's someone like Gary Vee, of course, who has spent a long time establishing himself as the brand. In addition to all of his other projects, everyone knows him. But yeah, for the most part, it's a person who just loves music, has a Spotify account, and their name is their username.
Got it. Okay, cool. Is there any reason why we as musicians should create our own playlist as users?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you own it. Straight up, it's yours. You place whatever you want in there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you place all of your own songs in there and then expect people to go and listen to it. There has to be some level of curation there. What I always suggest to an artist is create 2 playlists. Now, not going back on what I just said, but one of those playlists should definitely be all of your original music that you've created. Or if you're a producer, every song that you've produced for another artist. If you're a songwriter, all those songs that you're a songwriter on, that playlist is yours, and that should be the place that you direct people to find your latest releases. And the reason I say that is because you control that. You control the order of that playlist. If there's some songs that for some reason you don't want people to listen to, you can leave those out. But the best thing that can happen is if you have a playlist of all your original music, and every time you have a new release, you put it in there, just keep sharing that playlist. People follow that. They know that that's where they can hear your new music. The best thing that can happen is they'll go to that playlist, press play on your new song, leave it playing, and they'll play your entire back catalog, which means more streams, and they may discover a song of yours that they hadn't actually heard before as well. And you're in charge of the order of that playlist. So you know what your best, most strongest songs are that people are most likely to respond positively to. So you can put those towards the top of that playlist. Once again, you own that. That's yours. I mean, yes, it's still on Spotify, but at least that is yours. You can say, this is the home within Spotify where all my music is. If you follow this playlist, listen here. I've seen artists do it with their artist pick, which shows at the top of your Spotify artist profile, and said, new song coming out Friday. Follow this playlist to hear it first. And then people go and follow that playlist. And then as soon as Friday comes, and of course, Thursday night, Friday morning, 12:01 a.m., wherever you are in the world, the song goes live. So some people, it will go live in their country before us, wherever you are. We're in the US, so other countries, the song will go live earlier, and people that go to your page can find it and start listening immediately. Now, the other playlist that you should create is a playlist that, yes, your music will fit into, and no doubt you'll add some of your own songs, but you should also place similar songs in there. And the key being that it has to be well curated and it has to make sense. If you listen to it from start to finish, you listen to it on shuffle, you start playing it in the middle, all of the songs work together and your songs fit within there and don't sound out of place, because that's going to make it more enjoyable for the listener. They're going to most likely play through that playlist instead of leaving after a few tracks. And it's valuable for you because, yes, your music is in there, which is great, and people are coming back to listen to it, but you're also potentially helping other artists by including their music. And I've seen a lot of artists that have built strong relationships from this. So they've placed an artist and then they've sent them a quick email or tagged them on Twitter or whatever and said, hey, just want to let you know that I really like your song. I added it to this playlist that I curate. And most of the time, those artists, it's not that hard to click retweet, or even give you a follow. And I've seen so many relationships start from that. And it can lead to simple things like a local artist saying, hey, I'm playing a show next week. Do you want to jump on with me? And, let's do this. And then that could lead to supporting each other on each other's tours. And then on the other side of that, you're just helping them to find a new audience. But the best part is it's the right audience because your music is similar. So curation really is the key to all of this. You want to make sure that you fit in the right place. And by doing that, by curating a playlist that your music fits in, you're also going to be placing yourself amongst similar artists. Mm-hmm. Now, if enough people listen to this playlist, you can be sure that you're going to start seeing recommendations to fans of those artists now coming to you as well.
That's super true. So what about the numbers? Like when you make your own playlist or when someone else puts you on their playlist, you don't actually see it in your Spotify dashboard until that playlist has 25 followers. So there's something
just to jump in there, 25 unique monthly listeners. So
listeners.
Yeah, and we'll get to follow count in a minute. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, because what I was getting to is what do you think is you obviously, if you're going to create a playlist and not do anything with it, then you're probably not going to get a lot of those monthly listeners. But then if you have music coming out and you're creating your own playlist and you're trying to promote the playlist, but then you're also trying to promote the pre-saves or the singles, and then you're pitching, like, where do you put your priority if you are an artist with new music and is trying to gain the most traction? Is creating your own playlist the best, or is pitching to other playlisters a better strategy, in your opinion?
Both are important. And here's something that people don't consider normally is that most artists are now curators. We've just talked about the reason why artists should be curators and have their own playlists. So by curating that playlist and adding other artists, a number of them will probably have playlists that your music will fit on as well. And then it's mutually beneficial. Some will say it's a trade, but in all reality, if they're a good curator, they're going to listen to your song and only place it if it fits. The good thing is that you know that your music is similar. You know that their music fits on your playlist. It should be the case that your song would be a good fit on theirs as well. So by spending that little bit of time on the curation, now I'm not saying you have to update the playlist every day or even every week. You could do it 4 or 5 times a year. Just make sure that it's tight and it's enjoyable to listen to. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's going to keep people coming back. Don't feel that you need to add songs because straight away you're bringing down the value of your playlist. I mean, it's tempting to want to help somebody out and put their song in there. But if that song is causing people to stop listening to your playlist, you're doing a disservice to the other artists that are on there because they're now missing out on those extra listeners.
Yeah.
And you mentioned pre-saves. A lot of services out there that do pre-saves. For anyone that doesn't know, a landing page that you go to, it'll be a link. It could be a swipe up in an Instagram story, or it could be emailed to you. You would click that and it would say, click here to pre-save my new single, my new song. On that page, if it's Spotify, it would say, click here to sign in with Spotify and you will pre-save my new single. So the day it comes out, it is now added to your Spotify library. What you can do with some of these services in addition is you can also say, hey, while you're at it, you're also going to follow my playlist and follow my artist profile on Spotify so you don't miss out on future releases. So you can actually capture them in multiple ways and you're being completely transparent about it. There's nothing stopping them unfollowing after this has happened if they don't like your playlist. But one would hope if they like your music, they're going there to pre-save it. They're not going to be mad when they go into Spotify and they see your playlist there, because you already told them it was going to happen. And they may go and one day, it may not be immediately, but in the future, they may be looking at their lists of playlists, and they might hit play on that. So you can definitely grow all of them. And yes, pre-saves are important. And I'm sure you can get into that as well, but you can definitely add all of this into that. And then, yes, your focus can be on the pre-saves and building that up and getting that out to your mailing list.
Yeah. And show.co is doing a thing. Show.co is something, a service you can sign up for. You get it free if you're distributing through CD Baby as a marketing tool. But basically you are able to create sort of a landing page where you can select the option to have them click to pre-save the song, but also in that same click, so it's one click, they will follow you. And again, they can unfollow you later. And some people don't use Spotify. So the cool thing about show.co is all in one page, all in one form. It gives an email box so you can collect people's emails. Okay, you don't have Spotify, that's okay. You can still get the bonus, like if it's a chance to win a t-shirt or something like that. What show.co does is it collects the emails of the people that from Spotify. So it gets the data from Spotify and creates a little nice Excel sheet for you. And you could randomly choose someone to get a t-shirt or sweatshirt. I'm doing a sweatshirt thing. And at the end of your pre-save campaign, you can actually get all those emails. And I'm the email dork, and I love to have people inside my own system, aka email. So I think that that's kind of a really cool way to kill a bunch of birds with one stone, it feels like. So that's how I'm doing it. And there might be some other ways to do that as well, but cool. We do have a question you sort of touched on, but I wanted to just dig into it for a hot second is what's the best practice for updating a weekly playlist? Like, do you take every track out and put back in a different order with a couple new ones, or does it not matter? Or what do you suggest if you are curating your own playlist? What would you do?
Yeah, look, I mean, if you're completely refreshing the playlist each week, so you're basically, let's say it's 50 songs. You're basically every Friday or whatever day of the week, you're saying, come back for 50 new songs each week. Yes, you may have a separate playlist that's private where you build that up. And then every Friday, you'll go into your main playlist, delete those songs, go to the private playlist, copy and paste. And then it looks like every song was added 1 minute ago. That is one way. I have some longer playlists where people tend to listen to them sometimes for half a day or more. So one thing to keep in mind is if somebody is listening to your playlist and while they're listening, you delete all of those songs and then paste in new songs, as soon as the song that they are listening to finishes, the playlist will start from the beginning for them, which can be a little bit frustrating if it's exactly the same songs and you've just removed them all and put them back again, because let's say they've got 10 songs deep, but they now have to listen to those same 10 songs again just because you wanted to make your playlist look fresh. So if you're completely changing it every week, totally fine. If it's one of those longer running playlists, so I have a cafe playlist that people play while they're listening to, people play while they're drinking coffee or whatever. I don't want to be refreshing that constantly and having it that somebody could be getting into that playlist and then it starts all over again for them, unless I'm doing a complete change of what songs are in there. Sure. So shorter playlists, totally fine. Do a full refresh. Just remember that if anyone's listening at that time, their experience is going to change and they'll be listening from song one again. Whereas if you just take individual songs out, drag individual songs in, that won't affect the person that is listening. It's totally fine. So
Awesome.
yeah, there's kind of two suggestions there based
Sure.
on how long your playlist is and what the application is.
Very cool. All right, so we talked about the kind of playlists and creating your own. So we're clear on why we should create our own, but now let's talk about other people's playlists and getting on other people's playlists, because you talk a little bit about finding curators, and then we'll transition into, let's talk about pitching and pitching the curators. So what's the thing about finding other people's playlists, aka the curators?
Sure. So and I'm talking from experience here, and I still do this now. This is how I started finding curators back in the day. Jeez. So I'd go into Spotify, I would go to a playlist that I like, or I would go to an artist that I like. You can start with either here. Then what you would do is you would get to the artist's profile page. So whether you went directly to that artist or you found them in a playlist, you're now on the artist's Spotify profile page where you've got their artwork, you've got all of their list of all of their songs, their discography. On a computer, most importantly, in the Spotify app, you would click the About tab and you would see on the right-hand side a section called Discovered On. And what this is showing you is the top 5 playlists that are delivering the highest number of monthly listeners for that artist. So you know how many individual people with their own Spotify account have listened to at least one song from that artist on that playlist. And it could be anywhere up to 5. If they're a newer artist, they may only have one playlist that actually gets enough listeners to show there. But Discovered On is where you find that. And then what you would do is it will show you the username who curates that playlist. So if it says Spotify, you know it's curated by Spotify's in-house editorial team. If it has a funny username, ABC72456 or something like that, then you know that's an individual user. Sometimes it will have a real person's name as well. So what I would do from here is I would go and click on that playlist and take a listen and make sure that it is actually well curated. And the reason for that is so that you know that anyone that's listening to that playlist is actually listening and enjoying it. It's not a playlist that is potentially something else is going on there. And we can get into that later because payola is just going to trigger me. But, you know, so you look at the playlist and you go, yes, this sounds great. I've been enjoying listening to this. I know that my song would fit well in here. I know that other people would actually be listening to this and enjoying it. And I know that it's delivering monthly listeners. Cool. This is worth my time trying to find this person. So then what you would do is you would click on that username and let's say it shows their real name. The reason that usually happens is because people will log into Spotify with their Facebook credentials. And so it will pull that name from Facebook and put that into Spotify, and that now becomes their username, first name, last name. And it will also take their profile photo from Facebook and bring it in. So that's one way of seeing very quickly if you found the right person on social media. And the other thing that you can do is, let's say the username is not their real name and it's a series of numbers and letters. What you can do is you can copy that image, take a screenshot of their profile picture, go into Google where you can upload an image into Google image search, and it will match that image if they've used that image on their social media, such as their Twitter or their Instagram. And that could be another way to help you get closer to finding this person. And we're going to talk about outreach in a second too. So don't go thinking that that's it and you're set. But that's 2 ways that you can sort of begin to find them and get a little closer to finding them. Another way is simply copy the URL to that playlist. So literally click the dots next to the playlist and click copy link. Go into Google and paste that link and see if anybody has tweeted about that playlist or spoken about it or shared it themselves, because what happens is if an artist gets added to a playlist, they shout out that curator and they usually tag them on Twitter. So that should help with Twitter and Facebook and potentially finding them on other platforms. But from here, now this is a really important part. Let's say you match their Facebook profile photo to their name. It could be their personal Facebook. So you need to be very, very careful about this and respectful, most importantly, because first impressions do last, and not just a long time, sometimes forever.
Yeah.
So, if you look at it and you see that they don't have any public posts and they're very private, you may try and look for an alternative first. Go and see if they have a Twitter or see if they have an Instagram or something else that is public where you can try and reach out. If you do decide to reach out to a personal Facebook page, keep it very brief and don't go overloading them with anything. And what I mean by that is I've been guilty of this before, and I know a lot of artists think that you need to do this in the first message. Don't overload them with information. Don't give them your bio. Don't attach any song links.
That's the tip.
Don't attach.
You're stomping on my territory.
Okay, well, you know what? I will stop myself there.
No, I was gonna ask
because
you,
we're gonna say the same thing probably.
We really are, but I was gonna ask you, why do all that work when you could just use this indie Spotify Bible? Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I have a link here to send to it. I think it's such a great resource. It's super daunting because it's like literally hundreds and hundreds of pages. But when I find a playlist that I like, I just can like copy, because it's a PDF, you can do that, Command F find, and then any playlist with that name on it, you might get a couple because some people are not super original. Or you can even get the URL and I have a much easier time finding it. And a lot of the times the email is direct to, because I think the best way to pitch someone is via email. It's searchable. There's so many reasons why you want to be pitching ideally over email versus a Facebook message or something like that, unless there's some personal reason to do that. That's my opinion. But yeah, what do you think about the Spotify Bible rather than doing that grassroots for every single playlist?
Yeah, you know what? I'm totally for it. And so the way that I work is I teach people the way to do it yourself that doesn't cost you any money. You don't have to purchase anything. And then what I find is once they start to do some of this work, they realize I'm getting a return on my investment, and the investment is your time. You go, okay, I'm spending 20 hours a week finding these curators. I can justify the cost of this PDF document or this book. And that is when, and the good thing is that they've probably had some trial and error and learnt about what to do with the outreach. Because that's one thing that I don't believe the book has in there, or the PDF has in there, is exactly how to reach out to them, which I know is your area of expertise. 100%.
It's just a list. It's literally like it's a very daunting list. But I mean, that's sort of a good kick over to, let's talk about how to do these pitches. And for me, the first step is always research. So here, let me just put this in the chat. Here's a link to the Spotify Bible. It's like a short link. It's what I use. I heard of it because a PR person that I work with uses it for contacts. I'm like, aren't you all like relationship based? But she's like, yeah, but when we were looking for it's not just like the same people. Like, it's a great resource. So that can be a resource. But you have to do your homework. You can't, if you're not going to start in Spotify where you're listening and you're really getting, okay, my music would fit here, and you're just going from a PDF, you have to take those links and go reverse osmosis it, or go back to Spotify, listen, and make sure that your music fits. Because the biggest reason I am successful at pitching is because I'm pitching to the right people. So I'm not pitching my singer-songwriter stuff to a death metal playlist, because that would get me a lot of crickets, let alone no's, right? I probably wouldn't even hear back. And that was one of my biggest problems with pitching, is not just hearing no a lot, but actually not hearing back at all and not knowing what to do with that information or lack of information. So research is the biggest first step to me. And I think we sort of touched on that. And then also knowing what your intention is. So like, a lot of people just sit down and start writing these emails because they feel like they need to pitch someone, but there's never an actual like direct question at the end. Like, it's kind of like, okay, what do you actually want? And if you're not clear on that, they're not going to be clear on it either. So are you releasing a song? Are you pre-releasing? Do you want to save a song? Do you just want to be on the radar? And I think it's pretty clear, specifically with Spotify, that you want to get a song on their playlist. Same thing with booking venues. It's pretty clear you want to book a gig at their venue. But there's some places where pitching it's not so obvious why you're reaching out, and you don't want to assume. So just be really clear on what's the goal of this particular interaction. Like if you're applying for a job and you're writing an email, you're probably not going to say, hey, can I have the job? You're probably going to say, hey, can we set up an interview? So you just want to know what's this interaction, this first email, what's the point of it? So that's just for you to know beforehand. So the research and the intention of this email, let's just assume it's an email. I know that you can do it over Facebook. Maybe you already have a relationship with someone, or someone introduces you to a playlist or a curator through Facebook, in which case, definitely keep going on the platform that they're working on. But emails is a little easier to search. People can organize their emails. You can't sort of make folders of potential pitches and things like that in Facebook Messenger. So as a receiver, I find emails to be way easier to handle when receiving pitches. So just think about that. If someone prefers a phone call, then get on the phone. Like whatever if they prefer you to send them an owl, send them an owl or a pigeon. Like you do what they want. But my guess it would be email. So in the pitch, and I will tell you about this later. I do have like an 8-step. Here's this sentence, this sentence. It's called the perfect pitch. I'm not going to take all the time now to give you that. But the big takeaways inside the pitch is that you want to be really human in the beginning and let them know how you found them. I've noticed that that people are really smarter than we think and can tell when they've been copy pasted. When you've taken these emails and you copy pasted and just sent out a bunch, and maybe you got the name wrong, or maybe it's so generic, it's painful. So if you say, hey, I was doing a Google search for cool indie, blah, 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 whatever the genre is, and I came across your play, like you can tell them that you Google searched, you found them on Google. Like that's cool. Or I found you in this indie Spotify Bible and I listened to some of your stuff, and like the playlist you had last week, like the third song, like be specific and show them that you're human and that this isn't a copy paste. I think that goes a long way in getting them to keep reading, which is the point, right? You want to somewhere in this email, you like Mike started to touch on before I completely shut him down so that I could get to say this, is you do not want it to be all about you. You want to be solving their problem. And I say problem very lightly. It's not like they're like distressing over this, but for anyone that you're pitching to, whether it's a venue booker or a music supervisor of a TV show or playlister, they're trying to find great music that's their job. So if you can solve that problem for them, like they're not going to care who you performed with. They don't care if you were, an alien born on some other planet, but if you have this great song that's going to really be great for their playlist, then you're solving their problem. So they don't need all the name dropping in the bio, blah, blah, blah. You can have one link in your signature to your website, and that website should have all the information if they wanted to dig deeper and learn a little bit more about you, but you do not need to put your life story in the body of the email. Nobody cares. So make sure that's really clear what the win is for them and what the win is for you. If you're coming out with a new song, if this is your first time, releasing a record in the new age genre, for example, I might be using myself as an example. I am. Then be really authentic about that. And this is my first time, contributing to this genre. I'm really excited to get into this space. I would love to work with you. You can make it about something that's a little more vulnerable, not a typical. It's not typical for people to get vulnerable and like say something that they're nervous about. And so if you're like, this is my first, I think that can also attract. One really good thing to look at your pitches when you're done writing this pitch and you sort of got one sentence, you got related to them, you sort of presented what you think their problem might be and how you can solve it, what your song is. It sounds like this, like, I know we hate to pigeonhole ourselves as musicians and we hate to call ourselves this genre or say that we sound like so-and-so. Do it. It's so much easier for someone to get the world of your music and much more likely for them to click on the song if you are, comparing yourself to something that they might already know, especially if it's something that's already on their playlist. So don't be afraid to compare yourself and say that. The biggest thing about this is to have a yes or no question at the end. There's psychological studies that have been done that say when you ask a yes or no question to someone, their brain is going to answer it. So if I said, check out my necklace, and you kind of look at it, your brain's kind of like doesn't do much. But if I said, do you like my necklace? And I actually don't care. Your brain just answered though. Like you have a yes or no answer in your head. That is going to have them act way more likely than if you didn't ask them a yes or no question. So the yes or no question when pitching Spotify playlisters could be, would you be willing to add this song? Would you be willing to listen to this song, and give them a by when? Would you be willing to have a conversation about curating something together? Would you, we can talk about, I would love to get Mike in on this part of the conversation about what are the asks, but if you can form it as a yes or no question, the response rate is going to be much higher. It might be a no, but that's a good thing because you're not getting crickets. We'll talk about follow-up in a second, but so getting related, the win-win strategy in there, no bios, and then the direct request. Would you be willing to the XYZ? Looking forward to hearing from you. Your name, one link. Don't give them all your social media. They don't care. Just one link to whatever you want them to know. If you are pitching a specific song, if you have the Spotify URL, obviously put that in there. So make them do as little work as possible. You don't want them having to go searching around your name and trying to guess what song it is. So we'll talk about the follow-up after the pitch later, but I want to bring Mike in. What do you think the asks are in a pitch, or what else would you add to this pitch?
As in what the curator may ask for, or what
we should ask the curator. If it's proven that a yes or no question is going to increase your chances of getting a reply or having that person do the thing you want, what is the ask? Like, what are we asking for really? Are we asking to have a conversation about our song, or are we just asking them to place it?
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be different for every curator, but I can tell you right now that the less work that they feel they have to do, and the less that they feel forced to do something, the more likely they will respond positively. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious if you're sending them a link to your song that you would like them to listen, and the end goal is you want them to place it. You know, as you said, you're going to mention in the email, you're going to talk about the fact that you found their playlist. You found them because you went and you purchased a PDF document, and they willingly, most importantly, they willingly put their email address in there. So they're asking people to contact them from that email address. It's not like it's been stolen from somewhere or anything like that. You know, with what you mentioned,
that's a good point.
I'm in there myself. They asked me, they said, hey, can we put your details in here? And I said, yes, please put these details. So you're already, you're okay. So you can kind of tell them, you can say, look, I always keep it very short and sweet. They don't need the entire, two-story PDF document about you just yet. They can ask for it. But yeah, I like one link, one song. I don't want to listen to 10 different songs if I don't even know if I like your music yet. So that, I'm looking for the strongest songs. So by giving me that, you're making it easier for me. And all you're asking me to do is listen to your song, which is what I do. And you shouldn't necessarily need to ask for placement, but I feel like it's okay to say, I appreciate what you do, and if it does fit in your playlist, just know that I'd be happy to share it on my social media. That could be one little extra thing in there that helps to sweeten the deal, because they may not everyone does, but some of them may look at you and look at your Instagram and go, they've got 20,000 followers, they can do swipe ups in their stories. And I really like the song, of course, most importantly. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to place this. And awesome. You may end up having more of a conversation because of that.
Yeah, that's part of the perfect pitch is like step 6 is figuring out what you bring to the table. Because right now I feel like a lot of musicians are just like, I want the Spotify curator to place my song. I want them to help me. But if you can really look at it like, well, there's something I can do back. And maybe it's because you have good social following, or maybe it's because you have small social following, but they're super active and then they have followers. Like either way, you can, I love that. I think that's a great idea, saying, here's what I can bring to the table. And that goes back to that win-win. We're entering into this collaboration, and if you're willing to listen to this, which may be the ask, is just to listen, because they know that if they like it, they're going to add it. I would be really honored to be part of this, and I'm able to do X, Y, and Z for you. Whatever that is, if it's Instagram or wherever you have your following. So that's, I love that idea. I think that's really great.
Yeah. And look, I mean, just adding on that as well, you mentioned win-win. I mean, another way here, as we said, a lot of these curators are also artists. So there is the potential there that you've already listened to their music and found the song that you like that fits in your playlist. Why not start your email by telling them something that you've done for them and go, hey, I'm emailing you to let you know that I really like your new song. I added it to my playlist. By the way, I'm also an artist and I found your contact details here and I wanted to send you my latest song as well.
So
And,
great.
I mean, you've already done something for them.
Yeah.
It's at the very least, they have to write back and say thank you.
They're like, okay, I'm listening. That specific action that you've taken, that's that first step. And this also relates back to having done the research in the first place. If you know that curator is an artist, you're able to use that to your advantage in the beginning of the pitch. Awesome. Let me touch really quickly on the follow-up strategy. I'm a big fan of the send an email anytime, Monday through Friday. I had a lot of experience and success pitching venues on Fridays and getting gigs. And I think it's because they're just getting ready for the weekend and they're like trying to fill the schedule and they're like not even caring. But I do know that in the marketing world, sending emails Tuesdays through Thursdays tends to get better traction. I don't know what it is for Spotify curators, honestly, and it may not even matter. But what I would say in terms of follow-up is to wait a week. And when I say a week, I mean, if you send it on a Thursday, just make sure a weekend went by. You can follow up the next Tuesday. I like to just wait a weekend because then it's easy to say, hey, I'm just following up on this email I sent last week. Copy and paste your original email into the follow-up email so they don't have to do as much work to find your original email. And then I would do, if you still hear no response, I would do that one more time a week later, following up from the email I sent a few weeks ago. It's copied below for your convenience. I know you must be really busy. And in this third email, so we sent our first pitch, we sent a second email as a follow-up, and the third email, I ask permission to continue to follow up. And this is something that most people don't talk about. I even just did a PR course because I always am in a course somewhere. And they even say, oh, don't even worry about it after the third time. No. If you ask permission, I have gotten about 60% of responses from this email. And when I say ask permission, I mean, hey, I know you must be busy. If it's cool with you, I'm just going to follow up every few weeks. Is that okay with you? Reply whenever you get a second. I'm looking forward to working with you. And it's short and sweet. It's like 2 sentences. And 90% of the time people write back like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Thank you for being so patient. The other time someone will be like, yes, I'm so busy right now. If you can follow up with me in a month. And then I put in my calendar, follow up with so-and-so in a month. Asking permission has gotten me more responses than just dropping it being like, oh, I guess they're not interested. Because that's not actually a case. That's just something you made up and it's not reality. So ask permission and then get clear on what the reality is. And you're going to have such a higher response rate. And that's the name of the game here. The name of the game is to get responses because no's are very valuable. When you get a no, okay, this playlist is not a fit for me because, and you can do a little analysis and then you go find another better playlist. There's something to do when you get a no. There's something to do when you get a yes. You have to follow up. You want to tweet and do all the social media. So either way, you have actions to take, whether or not you get a yes or a no. But if you hear crickets, it feels like there's not much to do. You don't know what to work with. So my pitching game is get responses. And you can do that by asking yes or no questions, by asking permission to follow up, and by being really diligent and very respectful, but also saying, hey, I would love to follow up with you. Is that okay? And if they're like, please don't, we're not interested. Oh, great. I just got a response. You're going to get responses by asking for permission. So that's sort of what I wanted to touch on in terms of what to do with a yes, what to do with a no, and what to do with a no response. So that's sort of an overview of the pitching. Do we want to tackle payola while we're there? Or might you have anything else to add to the pitching part of this?
No, once we start talking about payola, it's on like Donkey Kong. It's
So basically don't.
No, yeah, look, let's jump into it. Bring it on, I say, because it has been brought up in the chat a few times.
Yeah.
People do want to talk about it and address it. And a lot of people don't really know exactly what it is. So payola, some have also referred to it as playola. But however you refer to it, there's a number of different meanings. One could be simply what used to happen, or probably still happens, some would argue, with radio stations, where people would walk in with bags of money, put it on the desk of the music programmer, and go, "Hey, just delivering this new song." Some would also say there was more than just money in those bags, but that's another topic for another day. But what people are suggesting now is that people are paying to get into playlists, not necessarily going to Spotify themselves. Just to be clear, we're talking about going up to an individual, a user who has a playlist, and saying, "Here, take my money, add me to your playlist."
Right.
Or vice versa, you send your song to somebody who curates a playlist, and they say, "Yeah, I love your song. It's great. It's a perfect fit for my playlist. I'm happy to add it, but it's going to cost you $100 to be in there for 2 weeks." Straight away, obviously their intentions are to make money, more so than the curation side. And a number of things that are concerning for me about this is I've seen curators that have just blatantly said, "Oh, yeah, this is my pricing for my playlist. Just send me the song and your payment," which basically means they're not even going to listen to your song. They're just going to take that money and drop it straight in there without even listening to it, which means, what does this playlist sound like to any user that finds it? Is it just a mess? Is it just multiple genres smashed in there? Are there songs that aren't mastered correctly, where the volumes are completely different? What are you going to be hearing? Will anybody actually enjoy this? Are those listens that are coming from this playlist real people, or a bunch of old iPods strapped up to a wall with the Spotify app on them playing? So yes, you may see some numbers, but they're not real people if it's a playlist like that, because you can be sure no one's really enjoying it. The other thing that can happen here, though, is if Spotify catch on to this, and don't think that they're not, it is slowly happening, you can actually get blacklisted. And what that could be is your song could get taken down from Spotify, or they could completely remove your artist profile, and you would essentially have to start again. And it goes from there. If you were with a label, your label may say, "Well, we can't do anything with you anymore with your catalog." You could lose that. If you're with a distributor, the distributor may say, "Hey, we don't want to get in trouble with Spotify. You participated in paying to be on this playlist. You got blacklisted. We don't want to work with you anymore either. We don't want to be associated with what you're doing." So that's one side of it. The other side is just blatantly going out and paying for a set number of streams. And there's websites that have been taken down. I'm not even going to name them, because they get taken down as quickly as they come up, but you'll know what they look like. They'll say 50,000 streams, $500, which actually is not a bad return on investment if you were just looking at it in that way. But that's also another reason for concern, because you're buying streams that are guaranteed, that are clearly not real people, and you're potentially making that money back. You're paying some stranger, and then Spotify is paying you for all of those streams. Spotify aren't going to be happy about that. They only want to be paying when people are actually listening to your music, real people, and real subscribers.
Yeah.
So don't buy streams, because that is the quickest way to get blacklisted. Don't pay to be on these playlists, because people don't value you enough to just add your music on its own merits. Obviously, I do feel that there should be a way that playlist curators should be able to make some money, because they've spent their time listening to all the music and curating it. But accepting a direct payment as the only way to add a song is not the right way. There's services out there. Now, this is not a recommendation, but just to let you know, there are services out there where curators can get paid to listen to the music. So Submit Hub, Playlist Push, curators can sign up, and they get checked over to make sure that their playlists are legit. Obviously, sometimes some will fall through the cracks, but very quickly they get removed. But with Submit Hub, I believe it's $1 or $2. Sometimes it's free, and you can submit, and you're basically paying for that curator to listen to your song. and at least listen for a set amount of time, write some feedback, give a review, and tell you if they're going to add it or not. And you're paying to skip past the line of everyone that's emailing them directly, or this may be the only way that you can reach them. Playlist push is kind of like a bulk service where you would pay a larger fee. I'm not going to throw out numbers because it varies, but you would pay that, and then they would send it out to the curators they feel your song would fit best with. The curators get paid to listen once again. So, and these, as far as I know, I haven't seen anything negative from Spotify about this because it's not pay for placement. You're just paying them to listen. So you're paying them for their time. And there's no extra influence. There's no pay an extra $2 and we'll guarantee to add your song or anything like that. It's pay this exact amount of money and we will listen to your song. And with Submit Hub, if they don't listen to your song, you actually get that money back. I believe they do at least a partial or a full refund of the amount that you spent. So Submit Hub is kind of similar to LinkedIn InMails, where you only use that token or that credit once the other person opens it and responds. But that's one way that curators can make some money out of listening to music without getting in trouble and without risking their playlist getting taken down. And that's another way that artists can do this. I mean, obviously outside of just what we said, getting the emails and reaching out to the person direct, creating your own relationship and owning that relationship and owning their email address. There's no, I could go on and on about payola, but I just say if you've got that money to burn, put it somewhere else. I mean, if you mixed and mastered your own song and you're not extremely confident about the way that it sounds and you've played it next to other songs and it just doesn't sound as good, maybe use that money to get somebody to do a mix and master on it, because what you're going to find is if it sounds just that tiny bit better, it's going to fit in more playlists, and it's to the end listener, it's going to be a better experience as well. The same way if you want to run ads on social media or anything else, just don't buy those streams because they're not going to be real. They're not going to convert to any real fans. And don't pay to be on those playlists, because most of the time you'll go to that playlist and you'll listen to it and it's just a mess. Yeah. And no one in their right mind is listening to that playlist and enjoying it.
Right. That's awesome. Okay. So the long and the short of that is don't pay to play, don't pay to playlist, but you could pay someone for their time to point you in the right direction to listen to your song and send you off to the right playlists to be pitched for. So we were talking about Submit Hub or, what was the second one you said? The pay
playlist push.
Right. So push and Submit Hub are the two, and that is paying for time, not paying to get on a Spotify playlist, which you don't want to do. There's way too many risks, it sounds like, that are not worth it. You might as well put your money into learning how to pitch better, like in getting Mike's book or the Perfect Pitch course. So why don't we tell you really quickly about that, and then we'll do some Q&A with the comments here. Mike, you've got this book. That's awesome. I've read it. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So the book it's a DIY guide for artists and curators. And now that you heard me talk, you understand that every artist should also be a curator. So anyone can pick up that book, even if you're not necessarily releasing music and you're just wanting to make better playlists and build up your own playlist following. It's all in there. It is meant to be a short read and a reference guide. I didn't write it like a long story because I respect artists' time and curators' time. What I find is I go back to it myself every time I have a release and almost work my way through it again, just to remind myself as well. So the book is out, paperback, hardcover, Kindle, PDF, pretty much any way you want to get it. Audiobook is not out just yet, but it's coming. And right now, should I mention the sale right now as well?
Yeah, I just put your link up. So workhardsplaylist.com/book. It's in the comments, and you're doing a deal for anyone watching this, which is what?
Yeah, so it's actually started a little early, but Black Friday, believe it or not. Black Friday and Cyber Monday, two of the biggest days of the year, especially for people in the music industry. If you're wanting to buy anything, this is the time. Go to that website that you've got your wish list on and see if they're doing Black Friday deals, because no doubt that instrument, that book, that course, whatever, is discounted for Black Friday. So my book is discounted by 42% right now, the paperback.
Nice.
And there's links within that link to get it from Amazon, Walmart, and a number of other bookstores around the world. And that is the discount for the paperback copy. And with Amazon and Walmart, I believe that includes delivery as well. So I was going to do a discount myself, but the cost of the books direct from my distributor would actually cost me more to get delivered to my house and then ship out compared to what they're selling it for at Amazon and Walmart. So I figured you could have it tomorrow. I'll put the links in there so that you can go and grab it now and you don't have to wait until Friday.
So awesome. Yeah, and the other thing about Cyber Monday and Black Friday for musicians in particular is any gear, book, educational material, program, or course that you purchase, you can write off, which basically means for 2019, when you do your taxes next spring, your taxes this year can be lower because that's an educational, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. It's a very good thing. So this is the time to invest in yourself and get these things at a deal. So if you have $150 right now, you can get the book, you can get my course, you can get the Indie Spotify Bible and have like 10 lattes left over. Like it's like not a big investment here. So that's awesome. Get Mike's book. The link is in the comments. And then I'm going to tell you about my discount that I'm giving you guys that goes till the end of Cyber Monday. And if you're watching this as a replay, you have until Monday night, midnight Eastern time. But my course is the perfect pitch I talked about already. It's 8-step process. It really lies out what the 8 sentences are in your pitch. And it gives you step-by-step. And it also comes with templates that I've pre-written, that I've tested like hundreds of times for venues, music supervisors. I'm going to add a series specifically for Spotify curators after this conversation. So that will come in the next couple of weeks. And you also get a community, which is awesome. It's on Facebook. It's a private group, and people post their pitches and get tons of great feedback to make these really, really powerful communications so that you're getting yeses and you're getting results. When you get good at pitching, you can do anything. And by the way, you can use this course not just for Spotify playlisting, but also like a marriage proposal. That's a pitch. Like you're asking someone for something. So you just get good at pitching. Like you get good at pitching and asking people for stuff, like results show up. Course is normally $47. I'm giving you a discount code for this Cyber PR Black Friday Monday. Thanks for being on the webinar. That will get it to you for $33. I don't know what that percentage is. 34, I don't know, it's $33. But you've got to use the code. Wait, I have it here. I think it's pitch for something. Hold on. It's like a fancy code. I put it in our Google Doc here. Pitch for play, but pitch for play. So you'll see when you go to the checkout page, you just type in pitch for play, the number 4 play, and the price will get reduced there. And that is good for a couple of days. So go do that. So you've got a good little toolkit here that we put in the comments. If anyone has any questions about any of those things, feel free to ask us. I feel like we've been nice and concise. So it's like exactly an hour here. So there's some questions. Will this be rebroadcasted? Yes, you will get an email from me, and if you registered for this, you'll get an email from me in a couple hours with the link that you can access through whenever, and we'll take this and post it in various places. So as long as you're following the two of us all over the place, you'll get that. There was something about finding email addresses for curators. Yes, we did cover that. Someone had an email list question about you manually create your list. Don't do that. That's illegal. People need to be able to unsubscribe. This is not an email. I can talk about email forever, you guys. I have a course, Rock Your Email List, where it's a big deal course about how to do email right. So I don't want to take time with that, but it's not a surprise that all your emails went to the spam folder, because you need to do it through a system like Kajabi or MailChimp or ActiveCampaign or something, so that people can legally unsubscribe from your list. So you do need permission from, yes, you're correct in that. Does anyone have, let me see if there's any other questions here.
Actually, while you're having a look, I
Yeah.
can jump on one that I saw in there. So
Oh, great.
not so much a question because I know he's all over it, but Lance Allen is in here. Lance is actually referenced in my book. He is a amazing guitarist based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and he is actually a full-time stay-at-home guitar slinging dad.
Nice.
Who is making the bulk of his income from Spotify. And for those that want to look him up, I believe he has over 500,000 monthly listeners. Monthly. That's 500,000 different people that have listened to at least one of his songs. Some people may listen to multiples. So he is smashing it and is a great person. If you are, you play piano, you play guitar, you play an instrument, you're doing acoustic music, you should watch and learn from him and see what he's doing because he will share it. And he's very active on social media as well. Very nice guy. Loves a chat.
Put your link. Would you put your link, Lance? Guitar Lancer.
Yeah, please.
Put
Lance,
your link in the comments. What links to what?
And your cell phone number, Lance. I'm kidding.
Maybe not that.
No, I'm kidding. No, but in all seriousness, I'm glad that Lance brought this up because, we are talking about reaching out to third-party curators. And I just want to be clear that if somebody says that they can take your music and pitch it to Spotify editorial or people that work at Spotify, be very, very cautious because I have yet to find anyone that would publicly advertise that for one, because even if you're friends with someone that works at Spotify, if you publicly posted on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere else and said, hey, I know people that work at Spotify and I can take your song up to their desk and put it in front of them for money, do you think that friendship is going to last or that they're actually going to listen anymore? There's no need to do that. If you're an artist with a label, the label will be taking care of that. If you're an independent artist, if you're CD Baby or DistroKid or whoever you are using, yes, it is your responsibility to go and pitch that song to editorial. And it doesn't cost you anything other than a few minutes of your time. Artists.spotify.com, sign up, you get your free account. Once you have a song that it has a future release date, you've uploaded it in DistroKid or uploaded it in CD Baby or whoever, a few days after that, you will log into artist.spotify.com. On the home screen, it will say, you have an upcoming release, and there'll be a button where you can submit it. Just quickly to explain why this is so important and to get in early and do this, if you fill out this form, it's going to ask you to tag the mood, the genre, the instruments used, the language of the song, if it's explicit, is it clean, basically attach all of this to the song so that when it gets delivered to Spotify, hopefully it starts to feed the algorithm earlier, which delivers the song to listeners based on what they like. So if for Lance, if he tags every song, guitar, the type of guitar he uses, the fact it's instrumental, the fact that it's peaceful, it may help to get it in front of the right people at Spotify, but also the right listeners once the song comes out. The other side of this is you're basically filling this out to get the attention of the editorial team at Spotify. So you're directing it to the right person by putting in that information. The best case, they take a listen, they like the song, they end up placing it in an editorial playlist. It didn't cost you anything more than your time. And the other reason why this form is so important is however many followers you have, if you have 10 followers, 100, 500, 10,000, if you fill out this form and submit it at least 7 days before the song is coming out, at least 7 days before release day, it's guaranteed to go into release radar for all of your followers. So it has to be an original song. If you're a DJ and you've remixed someone else's track, that doesn't count. Or if it's a song that's been out before and it's remastered, that doesn't count. So first time the song has been released, it's original. First time it's going on Spotify, you'll be able to submit it. And then, yes, release radar for all of your followers. So however many followers you have, you know that it's going to sit in their release radar on that Friday. And that's another way that you can potentially reach them. And
so how do you get?
Takes less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's awesome. So how does Spotify get a song? So if you're pitching a song that's not released yet, or several songs. If it's an album that's not released yet, can you submit each song to separate, or is it just you're choosing one song from an album? So I have two questions here. A, are you choosing one song from, or can you do the whole album? B, or question two, how is Spotify putting it on its playlist if it's not released yet? How does that work?
Yeah. So because you have a distributor, they are giving the audio to Spotify early. So Spotify will have that information, and that is how they know that they can present it to you when you log into artist.spotify.com. And what was the other part of that?
Can you submit all the songs from an album if the album isn't released yet?
So the short answer is no. It can only be one song at a time. So if you're releasing multiple singles, you need to spread them out, because you can only submit one song and then wait for that to be released before the option will come up to submit the next upcoming release. If it's an album, it will make you choose one song from that album. It won't allow you to fill out the information for every single song. So you really need to, and if your album spans multiple genres, that can be hard, because you need to really think about which song is the strongest and which song do you think, if it got in front of the right curator at Spotify, might have the best reach. But also, just which song defines you the most as an artist. If most of your songs are chill, don't go submitting in the more upbeat song from your album, because then you're going to start having people looking for more of that. So if whatever you're the most about, I would submit songs from that.
Awesome.
And only one song from each release. If it's a single, you can only do one single at a time. If it's an album, you can only pick one song from that album.
That makes sense.
Spread out your releases.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Great. Okay, so we've created this pitch. We've talked about where to find these people, how to pitch the right playlist for your music, why you should pay playlisters to pitch your. Just kidding. Why you should not pay any playlisters. I was seeing if Mike was still paying attention here.
I'm looking at the comments here as well.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Any other question? Is it okay to keep pitching a song that is not new? I've heard yes, that if your record has come out and you're giving it new life, you can't pitch it to Spotify on the Spotify.com, but you can pitch any song that's released to any other curator. Is that correct?
Yeah. And look, the way that I say it is, a song is new to the person the first time they hear it. So yes, there will be some people out there who curate a playlist and they only add new music. But there are other people out there who go, look, my playlist is just the best songs for studying to or doing my homework to. It doesn't matter if they came out today or 5 years ago. If it's a good song and it fits, I will add it. So you can definitely do that. Obviously, what we mentioned with sending the song to Spotify editorial, that only works for an upcoming release. There is Pandora, actually. I know we've talked about Spotify mostly today, but Pandora recently revamped their independent artist submission tool, which allows you to submit a previously released song. The only catch there is you can't resubmit the same song. But if you have a song that you released, I did it with a song I released 6 months ago, went in there, filled out the form, very quick, even more basic than the Spotify form. But what you're doing is you're saying, hey, this song has already been distributed to Pandora, but I want you to take a listen to it and consider it for programming across artist radio stations and any other programming that you have coming up. And once again, it takes a few minutes. It costs you $0, and you're going directly to the Pandora team and sending them your track. So I recommend doing that with the songs that have already been out, and then as well.
Awesome. Very cool.
And I'll put a link to that in the comments as well.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
Great. So you're covering Pandora, email, so many things. If you registered for this and didn't just click the link to get here, which is totally fine, you'll get an email from me. You can rewatch this. This will live here for who knows? We're going to take it down when we feel like taking it down. That's how this is going to roll. And go get the book and the course at a discount. I've had a little over 1,000 people do the perfect pitch and 100% 5-star reviews. It's super valuable. It's really quick. And Mike's book is really quick. Like, we're all about like, okay, learn the things, learn them well, and then go implement. This is an implementation game. And we're not going to waste your time here. So go get these 2 resources. You're going to be spending under $50, I think. And you're going to, let's be like Guitar Lancer here and go make livings on Spotify. Like, that'd be great. So cool. Let's see. There's one last. I have a song I keep singing, but I couldn't pitch this Spotify because no, I'm sure. Okay, that's not a question. So let's wrap this up. Any last thoughts from you, Mike?
No, I feel like this has been a good hang. We've been here for over an hour, and we didn't struggle, and we didn't run out of stuff to talk about. Nope. There's going to be a lot more questions after this goes out. I understand everyone's time is important, and a lot of people are probably taking an extended lunch break or getting up early or going to bed late to tune into this. So we appreciate that. Any questions, you can definitely keep adding them to the video. The video will be up live, so it's not going to disappear after this. We're still going to be hanging around. Yep. And hit us up on, social media.
Oh yeah,
that's the whole point of it. Get social. Talk.
Where's your favorite place to hang out on social media?
Okay, Twitter is definitely good for me because it's short and sweet conversations, which is great. If somebody has a quick question, I can get right back to you on there. Outside of that, LinkedIn is actually a big one for me, believe it or not.
What's your Twitter handle? I'm typing it into the comments here so people can just click on it and go follow you.
So all of my handles are .com/askmikewarner. As simple as that. Like, you're going to ask me a question.
I am going to ask you a question. There's Mike's Twitter, and my favorite place to hang out online is on Instagram. So I'm going to put that in. Personally, I do a lot of stuff on my CB music, but I'm moved over to In the Key of Success, Instagram.com. That's where I'm talking all things music in the key of success. So go follow on Twitter, on Instagram. And you can put questions here. I'll keep checking it in. I've turned my notifications on, so we'll be able to answer questions here. So thanks so much for being active with us and listening, and good luck with your Spotify playlist. I'm going to be documenting my process as I release my records coming out in February. So I'm going to be just starting this. I'm literally waiting for the links. I uploaded all the masters yesterday to CD Baby. So I'm literally in the beginning phases of this process. So I'm going to document all the things I do wrong, so you don't make these mistakes. And I'm going to be probably texting Mike way more than he wants to make sure that I try to do it as right as possible. And so use myself as a case study here. So I'm going to be doing this with you. So exciting.
Bring it on. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate this. This is super helpful. So to those in the US, happy Thanksgiving week. To those outside the US, go eat a turkey.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk soon.